welcome back to a brand new episode of Virtual Coffee. My name is Alexa Collier, and on this podcast, I chat with small business owners from around the world. Now, with me today is Molly, the founder and owner of Marble and Steel Chocolates. On this episode, Molly walks us through her career as a chocolatier and how she used her expertise and passion to start her own business. Now, Molly's story is really fascinating and inspiring, and I know you'll take a lot away from this episode, and it's just a really fun listen. Now, before we hear from Molly, as always, please leave a rating and review for Virtual Coffee on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Just helps others discover the podcast, and then they discover the small businesses that we feature. You can follow Virtual Coffee on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all the social medias. It's all at Virtual Coffee Podcast. As always, thanks so much for tuning in to another episode. Now, let's hear from Molly. Welcome, Molly. Thanks so much for being on Virtual Coffee.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I want to start out with, where did the name for Marble and Steel Chocolates come from? I just need to know that story right off the bat.
Yeah, no, I love when people ask me that, because it started off with, it was my idea. My husband John does this with me. It's mainly me because he's a full-time pastry chef, so I kind of looped him into this. But we started off by hand tempering all of our chocolate because we only had one warmer to work with. So everything was tempered on a marble table. And then that palette knife that's in our logo that a lot of people are like, what's this construction tool on here for? Every chocolatier uses a palette knife to that degree, like in one shape or another. And in the business, we called it a steel. So, let me grab my steel. So for me, it was like husband and wife team, two things that go hand in hand. Like, you need to, temper chocolate on the marble table with your steel. So additionally, I didn't want to go the route of putting my name on as the brand. Just personal choice. I just thought it was more, I don't know, just a more higher end organic look. And I love the marble aesthetic. So that was where I went with it. And then I just wanted to tie it into this team of two people making this one item. And these are the two tools you need to use to make it with. So that's where that came from.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that story. So you mentioned your husband's a pastry chef. What's your background? Were you always into, would you call it the cooking world, the baking world, the chocolate world? Were you always in that industry?
Yeah, I started off, every job I've ever done was always in a kitchen. I started off as a busser and a dishwasher when I was 14 in a mom and pop shop. So it was a mom and pop breakfast, lunch, dinner joint in my hometown. I'm from Central PA, so it was super small. And that was what I did just as high school jobs. And then I always enjoyed cooking and baking with family and whatnot. So my senior year of high school, I went to our Tech Center and did full day culinary arts. So I was never at my high school my entire senior year. I went to another school and just did full-time culinary. So that kind of just fueled all of the stuff I was doing, working those jobs and, cooking as a hobby. And it was wow, this is actually a career that I could turn into this. And let's see where this goes. So I did that. And then I worked in some hotels and restaurants around my area. And I really liked that. I mean, I was just so used to the hard work that comes with that, because it's not easy at all. So it was just kind of I was used to that. And then what a lot of people do is once they get the basics and they're our line cooks and, they work in big scale, small scale places, you kind of start deciding, well, which direction do I want to go? And with me, I kind of did it all, as far as culinary went. So I was garde manger, I did line cook stuff, I did fry cook stuff, but then I always loved making desserts as well. So kind of a little bit of a, let's go back here a second story. My maternal grandfather had a chocolate business when I was growing up. So I grew up around, I mean, by the time he had it, they sold it like probably early 2000s, but it was his like 100-year-old family business. So like his grandfather started it, and it was just in like a small town in Maryland, and it was old school, like toffees, caramels, buttercreams, like what you would see now up in like the Maryland area. Anyone that's from there like knows exactly what that is, just this old school chocolate shop. So when I was young, I grew up, going to the store with my grandmother as she's, getting all the stuff and making sure all the employees are good. And so I was a little too young to like learn how to actually make the things, but I was definitely like around it. So by the time I was, professionally cooking and being around like pastry chefs, whenever we'd work with chocolate, I was like, wow, like takes me back to my childhood. I really want to learn more about this. And chocolate's very challenging to work with, so I kind of looked at it as a challenge of how does it's very temperamental. You can't just like throw it together and like hope for the best. You have to understand it to like truly make what you're trying to make with it, or else you'd run into issues. So for me, I liked that challenge and I wanted to kind of tap in on that. So while I was out of high school, I was like, I want to go to pastry school. So I ended up going to do a pastry arts program in Lancaster, PA. And the chef there at the time that was the director, her name is Susan Nodder, and she's like one of the biggest. Her and her ex-husband Awald are probably like the king and queen of like sugar and chocolate in the industry. Like anyone that works in the pastry world, at least in the US, definitely worldwide, but definitely in the US, everybody knows that name. Just because like in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, they like wrote books and pioneered like, oh, here's what showpieces are, and here, things that people weren't seeing before. So she was the director there, and I was like, I gotta go learn from this lady. So I went there, did a year program, and it was amazing. And then we had to do an internship at the end of it to complete it, and I did it at Norman Love Confections, which is Fort Myers, Florida. And at the time, they were doing stuff people have never seen before, which was the colored cocoa butter sprayed bonbons. So they were doing techniques that like were pioneering the industry and really pushing the boundaries. So I went down there and I did my internship, and I ended up staying there for, I think it was a little under 8 years. I ended up becoming a chocolatier and pretty much the sous chef by the time I left. I just was like, whenever my manager was gone, I was running the show in there. So I definitely got like from the ground up experience with that. And my husband worked there as well. So there was a chocolate side and there was a pastry side, and he worked in the pastry side. So he was basically doing what I was doing, but then he moved on to pastries and was the pastry chef over there. So I met him there. We fell in love. Da da da. That happened, and we were just there. And now we're in Asheville. As you know. So we just loved it up here. We would come and visit friends that we had up here, and living in Florida, coming to the mountains was definitely like a really nice break. It was one of those things, when you visit somewhere and you're like, oh, I could move here. We just actually did it. One day he got the opportunity to be the pastry chef at the hotel he's at now, and we were just like, let's go. I was pregnant with our first kid, and we were like, now's a good time to move or it's going to get harder. And we've been here ever since. So I want to say that was, 2017. We've been here ever since.
Thanks for taking us through that background, and I want to get to the actual piece for sure. Really glad you brought up the story of your grandparents, because I was going to ask you if you had, like, if it was just a hobby you've always had and an interest in. So it sounds like yes, that, but then you also have the family piece, which is really cool. That's really awesome. Yeah, what a vast background. I love that. And I know you guys are in Asheville. Are you guys doing okay from the crazy storm, the hurricane?
Luckily, us personally in our neighborhood was pretty untouched. There definitely was some damage around, but like our house is fine. Good. Everyone's in one piece. I mean, it was really bad though. Like, we lost power and water for about 2.5 weeks.
Wow.
I mean, and the whole area was cut off with cell phone use. So the first couple days was weird because we didn't really know how bad it was. And,
Oh, yeah.
you
Yeah.
you saw it around you. But then I remember at one point we were like, well, let's go see how bad it is. And we couldn't leave the neighborhood because
Wow.
in one way there was a tree down, in another direction there was flooding, and then in another direction there was trees and power lines down.
Yeah.
So we were like, okay, let's go back home. But once we started hearing like weeks with an S of, when water or power would be back, we were like, well, let's get out of here. So we ended up going to the Charlotte area and just getting
Okay.
like an Airbnb for a little bit because we have a 5 and a 6-year-old. So,
Yeah.
him and I can tough it out for a bit, but with them it was like, we don't need to be doing this. And just fighting over supplies and with people, and it was just a mess. So once we connected to internet, and then we could truly see like River Arts District, Biltmore area, like just things that were just there the day before, just now cinder blocks. It was pretty crazy. So it's amazing how much has been cleaned up. And I think we're at 7, almost 8 weeks now. But I mean, the whole Asheville city water is still bad.
Wow.
Everyone's just trying to like, in our area, luckily, we're in another county and our water's okay now.
Okay.
But there's whole like restaurants and hotels and stuff that just have like bacteria water, and it's just like, from the outside looking in, it seems like, okay, they're getting it back together, but there still is a lot of work to do in certain areas. But luckily for me, we don't have a brick and mortar store yet, so I'm glad I didn't have to deal with that. I do a lot of e-commerce, so it didn't really affect me setting up, but a lot of makers and artists around here rely on markets and in-person stuff, and a lot of that got put on hold for a bit. So
well, thank goodness you and family and house are okay. That's great to hear. I just wanted to make sure before we continue, but the devastation out there is insane.
Each and every person around here has just gone through like a different set of challenges, so it's just like some people are totally fine, but it's just like it's just been traumatic to see it all, because
it's your town. You're right there. Yeah.
This area is not built for flooding like this. So it's
and it's wild. Like I'm in Raleigh, Wake Forest area, and a lot of my colleagues would ask like, "Oh, are you fine?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're perfectly fine." Oddly enough, it's West that got hit. Like that's yeah.
Well, even just us going to Charlotte for a little bit, it was like surreal because it's just like your whole town and everyone is like devastated, and over just 2 hours away is like completely fine, like business as usual. So it it's pretty surreal. And even living, my husband's born and raised in Florida. I lived down there for 8 years, never seen any sort of, that's where these things happen often, but it's not built. It's built to not have flooding like this, or they have the infrastructure to clean up and support people. And here, they really had to do like boots on the ground grassroots movements to like help people out. And
for sure,
it's wild.
Yeah, we need to support our Asheville small businesses this holiday season. That's what we all need to do. Thank goodness you guys are okay. And again, thanks for sharing your background and where you guys are at. Now, I'm always curious how someone like yourself goes from, I mean, for you, it was more your career, right? Like you said, you became that chocolatier, really rose in status in your industry. But still, how do you go from working at a place, and you might be running a lot of it, but then transition to your own business? I'm sure there were surprises in there or things you didn't think you had to do. Like, how was that transition? Was it easy? Was it hard? What are your initial thoughts around that?
Mine was a little bit different because I became a mom. So we came up here, we had our daughter who's 6 now. And then I got pregnant pretty soon after that. So we had 2 babies back to back. So I shifted into full-time stay-at-home mom mode from being like, working professionally as a chef. So My husband worked full time. I chose to stay at home with them, which is amazing. And like it was a lot. It was probably the hardest job I'll ever do in my life, but that was my life, and then still is, I guess. you know. So that was my
Yeah,
life.
it's not like you just stopped being a mom.
Yeah, it never stops. But I was full-time small children stay-at-home mom, and then COVID happened. So with COVID happening, which I'll move forward a little bit, COVID happening has birthed so many people's small businesses. It's insane. So when it was happening, we're all stuck at home. It's crazy town. It's, everybody's trying to figure out what's going to happen next. And once the initial like panic settled down of, okay, what are we doing? What's happening? We're doing our walks around the neighborhood, but now what? So at that time, the whole like hot cocoa bomb thing was like blowing up, pun intended. And I go to a gym where it's like very much a community of like stay-at-home moms and, women, and everybody knew that I did chocolate, before I moved here. So it was a lot of, oh, can you make these? And of course, with COVID, everyone was just looking for something to do. Like,
Yep.
any exciting thing to do with your kids or just like yourself, it was like, please, like, I'll take my money. So, yeah. And Amazon's taken 3 weeks to deliver things. So what can we do? So I had some molds and I had a warmer and I had a few like pieces of equipment already just from our personal collection. And I was like, oh yeah, I can make those. That's easy. And I ended up just making them for fun. I got like some packaging online, like just like some simple stuff. And we ended up going to a marble place that like sells marble. And we were like, hey, can we have like a scrap? And they were like, what are you talking about? And we were like, do you have like a big piece of a scrap that you can't sell? And they were like, yeah, like come and look in the back. So we just picked like this pretty decent sized piece, and that's what we tempered on for like the
Wow.
beginning of it. We were like, we just need like, we're just doing it, for fun, blah blah blah. So
wow, that's pretty smart. That's cool.
so we did them, and I had enough to make 12 at a time cocoa bombs. And just by doing it, like, for the people I know, the word of mouth spread, and I ended up making like 600 of them.
Wow.
like,
Wow.
like people just messaging me and, hey, I heard you're doing cocoa bombs, and it was pretty like remarkable, like how crazy it was.
Wow.
And I was
Really
like,
cool.
wow, this is something to do. Like, I miss making chocolate. I've just been in mom mode. So it gave me like an outlet. And in that, I was like, well, I should make some bonbons too. So I did the same thing where I just ordered like, some stock packaging off of Amazon, and okay, I have 30 boxes. And when I sell out, I sell out. Like, how fun is this? And I can send some to family and send some to friends. Oh, look, I'm making chocolates again. It's been like 3 years since my closest people have had our stuff. So literally like the second I would put that out there, sold. It'd be accounted for. So okay, I'd buy some more. And then it literally was like kind of that like whole kids lemonade stand thing, it's like, but you're killing it. It was like, oh wow, like people like what I'm making. So it was nice for us because we got like some nice little side cash, and we were like, oh, this is fun. So then I ended up doing it for Valentine's Day. Okay, let's do like some Valentine's Day chocolates. And then again, everything that I would make would be gone. And then, okay, let's do some Mother's Day, some Father's Day. And it truly was like a pilot year of like, okay, the demand is here. The people in our area want chocolate, but they don't want to drive 30 minutes downtown to where the other chocolate places are. Very much in that time frame of COVID and support small business, that was when people were really leaning into it. And I mean, I still see it now, but oh my gosh, like it was such an uptick of like like let's not kill these small businesses. So it very much was like, wow, you're a mom and you're local and you're making really good chocolates. Like, hell yeah, I'm gonna support you. So I just noticed that like the demand was there, people were buying it, and that's really what I did. Like my husband and I talked about it, and we had always talked about doing something like this, but this really was like the push. Like I felt like if I didn't do it, I would be missing out. So when I had that feeling, I was like, I can't go back. Let's do it at our own pace and see where it goes. And it's grown to something that I would have never thought that I was doing this. I would be able to have like a system and a website and somewhere where, oh yeah, here's my card and you can pull that up immediately, and I'd be shipping to like 50 states, and it's just like it's crazy. But that is what really started it, was that push to like, okay, you should do something because the world is falling apart right now.
Yeah.
So you should do something that brings you joy and is making you money and supporting your family, but also kicking you off that ledge of like, I don't know, I want to do it, but I'm not really sure. And I've seen that time after time, just doing like makers markets and handmade markets. And oh, how'd you get started? And if it wasn't before COVID, it was because of COVID. And God, like what a beautiful thing is like that's that's truly like the American dream right there, is like, oh, there's this talent that I have that really truly brings me joy. And whether it's pottery, whether it's jewelry, whatever it is, just people coming out and actually going for it is like so awesome to see. So that was for sure how I started it. So
No,
it was already in there. I just was like, all right, let's take the jump. So
yeah, I love your story, and you keep bringing up COVID. I started this podcast during COVID, so I totally get it. I totally relate. But I love your origin story because I feel it's quite unique, actually, because you have the professional background that then you turned into your own business, your own passion, and I think that's quite unique. And I think that adds I don't know how to describe it, like a detail or like a level to your business, because you can tell, you were kind enough to send me some chocolates, which thank you very much. And they're gorgeous. Like they are beautiful, very professional, professionally packaged, professionally sent. And I want to get into the actual chocolates in a bit, but I just love how your professional background elevates your business, but it's still, the business came from not oh, I need to make money, which that's okay if a business, sometimes that comes about that way. But I love that it came from, I'm kind of bored. People are wanting these hot cocoa bombs. Let me try it. And then it like exploded from there. So it's a beautiful combination of a true talent you have that you've crafted over years of your career, but also this passion to do it yourself. And that's really beautiful. And again, you can see it on your page and your website, your Instagram, that uniqueness there.
Thank you.
I love that. And let's dive into some of the chocolates themselves. So if I'm a listener, listening to this and I haven't been to your Instagram yet, which I know they will all go there after this, but how would you describe some of your chocolates? Like what can they expect from purchasing from you or browsing your store?
Yeah, so my main style of how I make chocolates is, as Americans especially, you eat with your eyes first. So having like a really nice packaging box, which is perfect for just enjoying yourself or gifting, was my main priority. Was, if I'm gonna put all this work into this product, it has to be packaged correctly. And I do a lot of shipping, so it has to ship to a destination and arrive just as beautiful as when I packaged it. So beautiful packaging. And bonbons, by definition, are thin chocolate shells with ganache or praline or caramel fillings. So my style is just really artistically inspired designs. Sometimes it reflects the flavor that's inside, i.e. like if it's a caramel, maybe it's a caramel colored chocolate. Or sometimes it's just like, this is a cool design that I want to do, and that's the flavor that it ends up being. However, there's a good mix of white milk and dark flavors, and we only use European chocolate. Ours is specifically from Switzerland, so like really high-end, high-quality, luxurious ingredients, making this colorful, nice, giftable box. So that's my main goal is, especially now, like I do seasonal flavors a lot. So I'll have our core collection that we always have, and then I'll switch it up. And, around this time we'll have like fall flavors, or we'll have like holiday inspired flavors, Valentine's Day flavors. So really just capitalizing on what's like seasonally sought after right now. I like to tap into my childhood too, of like, what's like a timeless classic that people really enjoy. And I think that in my area was what was missing out on, because sometimes people can go off the rails with flavors of like adding, like herbs or floral stuff. And it's just like, it's interesting, but like for me, it's like, what are you going to go to time after time? And so my style is really artistically shiny inspired chocolates with relatable fillings that are timeless and seasonally sought after.
That's amazing. And if you could recommend, if someone wants to purchase from you, but they're not sure what to do, like what would be your go-to chocolate or flavor, or like what would you guide them towards?
So our 12-piece box, so it's like you have 12 bonbons in the gift box. It has all 12 of our core flavors in it. So you get truly like the map, and you get one of each, and you get to see like, you get to kind of play around. And, there's people that are, it all depends on what you're into, because there's people that are more like fruity flavors and more nutty flavors, and that box has everything in it. It's got the caramels, it's got the pralines, so it has a little bit of everything in there for everyone's. And a lot of the times people aren't used to, especially white chocolate in general. A lot of people will be like, oh, I don't like it, because they've had awful chocolate. But then a lot of times I hear, oh, that was the flavor I wasn't expecting to like, and it turned out to be my favorite one. So, that really gives you a good chance to try all the ones that we have at the time, and see what you're into, and what's your favorite. So I would say the 12-piece box is a good move.
Yeah, it's a perfect answer, because why choose when you can have them all? And I'm laughing because it's like, maybe you didn't like the chocolate before because it was just bad. And that's honestly very true. It's true.
I mean, in America, a lot of the like, if you see like super ultra white chocolate, it has like oils in it and wax additives, and it's not good. So real white chocolate is like butter colored almost, and it's like, it's not overly sweet, and you balance it with like some nice fillings. That's really like what inspires me when I make a flavor is it balanced? I don't want something overly sweet or something overly salty. Like, what chocolate is going to go best with this flavor to really like give it its best life?
Oh, I love that. The amount of like detail and care that you put into your product is clearly there. You mentioned shipping, which I think is amazing, because I don't know, I haven't come across too many, not that I'm really in the chocolate industry myself, but I haven't come across a lot of chocolate shops or places that focus on shipping as heavily as you do, which I think is awesome for people who aren't in the Asheville area, right?
Yeah.
Where are you able to ship? Yeah, let's just start there, just so our audience knows where you're able to ship to.
Yeah, we ship nationwide.
Perfect. Awesome.
So international is hard just because of the time and the temperature sensitivity. But I think I want to say there's only 2 states I haven't shipped to yet, and one's like, I mean, Alaska and Hawaii for sure, and I want to say there might be a third one, but without look, it might be like South Dakota or something, some random like Midwest state. But yeah, I mean, we do everything based off of like what time of the year it is and the distance. So if it's cold out, I mean, everything gets shipped in insulated boxes with ice. So, I mean, I'm sure when you opened your box, you could see that. So
I can attest to that. It's very well packaged in there. Yeah.
There's a method behind that. And that is, you're making an environment in the box so that it keeps the chocolate okay. I mean, but if the longer you wait, the ice packs will gas out, and then you lose that. So if it's going somewhere hot like Florida or Arizona or somewhere like that, it's just got to get there quicker. There's issues that'll happen with shipping, of course, but I would say 99% of the time everything makes it there okay. Of course, there's like the small chance that, the UPS driver leaves the box out and it's like the sun's beating down on it and you didn't get home yet, that kind of thing. So that pretty much just stemmed from, we made a commercial kitchen out of our house. And I was like, well, how can I sell this? I can ship to people any day of the, any time of the week. So I don't have to be like setting up somewhere week after week. So that's where that stemmed from, was just like accessibility and just being able to do it from my home from COVID. So
yeah, it's great you guys figured that out, because I think you even mentioned earlier, a lot of small businesses rely on the markets and in person. Mm-hmm. How were you able to then grow such a following on social media? And it seems like you have a pretty solid customer base without starting out in person. It might be hard to compare since you did go the virtual route, right? You didn't really go the in-person route, but I'm just curious, as you reflect on that, lessons learned, or, I'm thinking about other business owners who might be listening to this where they might feel pigeonholed into having to do in-person stuff. Like, any advice that might enlighten a possible different path for people?
Sure. So for me, since I had 2 young kids, that was the main thing. If I didn't have them, I probably would have done more initially. When you don't have kids, you have a lot more time to like jump and do stuff. But yeah, I did do in person at first. So I kind of just messed around by making an Instagram and, follow my chocolate journey. It still was sort of a hobby, but like dipping my toe into like making it legit. So I started with that. So it kind of started a ripple effect with the people that knew me and knew what I was doing. And then, they're sharing it. And then organically there's, people just following it. So it started with that. And then here in Asheville, we have breweries everywhere. So I started doing they would do like brewery markets, and a lot of times they'd be indoors or outdoors, but I do the indoor ones, obviously. And that's where I really started to connect with the community here, and people started knowing who I was and what I was doing and what the product was. And I thought that was absolutely essential, because if you want to, you can ship out and connect to people not near you, but connecting to your community is like at its core, like so important, at least to me, because especially now after Helene, your community is what is building you up and, helping you succeed. And I was able to just meet people and talk with people, and gosh, without doing that, it would take a lot more work just to be like that online presence. And so I feel like you have to do a healthy mix of it. It's okay if you don't want to set up week after week, but just by like there's a holiday market coming up and I'm available to do it. Maybe you do that. I talk to everybody, so it's easy for me. But even if you're introverted, bring your like best extrovert friend with you and, hey, come over. Have you seen this? Like, look at this art, check out this pottery. It can only help you and not hurt you by doing things like that. So I'm a perfect example of, do what you can with what time you have, because there's a lot of people doing a lot more of those. But just by doing what you can and what you're into, and then you start adding to your tribe and adding to your customer base, and then again, new ripple effects. So I just did a market in Charlotte recently, and I haven't really been over there before. That was the second time I did something over there, and almost everybody that was there was a new customer. Now I'm creating new ripple effects. So really being choosy about what you do in person helps, but just doing them helps. There's going to be ones that aren't going to be worth it, but that's for one reason or another. I think in the beginning you don't really know what you're going to do, so just trying new and different things to kind of find your way is proof of where I got to now. I had no idea how any of it was going to go. So I think just, being a millennial and, I'll start an Instagram, there's that. But then also just adding to it, and you find out what you liked and what you didn't like, and you come across like some interesting people, and you come across some lifelong customers too. So it just depends on what you do. But that is, I was doing them probably like monthly.
Okay.
So it wasn't like weekly. But yeah, I would say if somebody's doing, like, if you have a business that you're trying to do that is marketable like that, it's definitely worth it.
That's good advice, because it sounds like you just kept an open mind, which it sounds like that's been your strategy this whole time. It's just like keep an open mind, kind of like go where the path takes you, but along the way you're being very intentional with how you're taking advantage of that next step. Yeah. So it's like a really good balance of open-mindedness but a good strategy, and then also your balance of in person to form that community, but then as you mentioned, those ripple effects might end up back digitally, right? Like they follow your Instagram, they start engaging on there. So that's interesting. I think that's really good advice, because even when I ask that, I think it's easy to assume, well, one must be better than the other, so you should only do one, right? Like you should only go down the one path, but you can do both, and you can mix it up and have that good balance. So that's a really good reflection on what you did and what you're still doing.
I also think the biggest part of all of that is just being consistent, and especially with like just customer service, and I guess just like selling your personality is what most people buy. So if they talk to me and they like the exchange we had, it's like that's priceless. If they like the product, they talk to me, we had a good exchange at a market, for example, then they buy something later and the product was just as good as when they got it in person. Like that's a connection that is forged, like, and I've seen that a lot. Like I put a lot of energy into like how things are packaged, and like just having a standard in mind, and just having that quality and consistency is, I think, what's going to take everybody farther no matter what you're doing.
I couldn't agree more about the ability to get to know the people behind the business. I mean, that's exactly why I do this podcast, is to show that, yes, it's a small or local business, but there's real humans behind it with a real story and real perspectives, and they're all different. Similar themes, throughout people I talk to, but all unique in their own way. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. That just helps connect you so much deeper with the product they're selling, with the business. So yeah, I totally agree. I know we just said that you kind of let the path take you where it will, but where are you hoping to take Marble and Steel? Any goals in mind for the future, or any aspirations that you'd love to see eventually happen with the business?
Absolutely. Our next main goal is to create a brick and mortar store in our area, preferably. So just a place to move this to, and then do more stuff. So my husband's specialty is he's an executive pastry chef. So we would have, pastries and maybe like ice cream in the summer, and, teaching some classes in the summer, and being able to just have way more products, but nothing crazy. A chocolate shop first, but just like have a nice, like high-end chocolate shop. A lot of times I'll get like, oh, is there a place I can go to see everything? And I'm like, kind of, if I'm set up.
My house.
Yeah. And sometimes that has happened. But yeah, come on in, but that's the next step. And it's a big step, because now you're introducing rent and a whole nother like set of, expenses. So that's what we're moving towards. I don't know the time frame of that yet. Hopefully sometime next year. That would be great. But yeah, just taking this, little machine that we've created and turning it into like a functional brick and mortar well-oiled machine.
Yeah. That'd be really exciting. Yeah. And I'll have to have you come back on once you guys open up that place, and we can talk about that process, because like you said, that's a whole other beast.
Oh yeah.
But that's really exciting. Yeah. Good luck with that goal. Looking forward to seeing the updates on it.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to kind of wrapping up a little bit, one of my last bigger questions. I wanted to dig into running your business, being a mom, being a wife, having family, friends, like everything in your life, right? Beyond the business. how has it been managing all of
Oh,
that,
man.
especially working out of your home? I can imagine that's another layer. So
Yeah.
I'm sure we could do a whole episode on that, but more for right now, what's just coming to mind when I bring that up? And do you have any advice or even a perspective that might help someone else who's listening to this saying like, yeah, like I need help managing this?
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely something that I'm still trying to figure out myself. It has helped a lot that my kids are in school. So before they were both in school, it was a lot more challenging because it was me bopping around, picking up, dropping off. Like, how do you get all of this done? But in the beginning, it was hard because I would kind of just stay up late and make things or work on things while they were asleep, which I see a lot of people doing. And it's like that really is like the nose to the grindstone kind of going after it kind of thing. But it's not sustainable because eventually you get burnt out. So the important thing for me was just to work in like chunks. So like kids are at school, okay, now I'm going to work on, this is my time frame that I'm getting my work done. And then I'm stopping and I'm going to the gym or I'm going grocery, like knocking out those adult tasks to like then pour into my own cup, and also having people to talk to about stuff, and whether it's other business owners or your family or like just to like bounce things off of them, I think is important to have that gasket, to let some steam out and truly like taking care of yourself first, because you can't like keep moving forward without doing that. And then I'm at this crossroads now where just getting help, like hiring people to help, because I'm still like, I feel like I need to do everything, and I realize that like that's not gonna be forever, and you should have people help you, and it's only gonna grow your business. So just asking for help and scheduling out your day to where it fits your needs and you're not like burning yourself out or overcommitting to things, because that was another issue I have is something will sound good months before and then I'm like, why did I sign up for all these like events or whatever it is, and then I'm like taking stuff off the plate because things happen. But because I don't want I love that my kids see me working. I think it's a great example of a model example of doing something and earning things and your kids seeing it. But I also don't want them to be like, hey, you're ignoring me.
Yeah, like, it's that balance again, right? That's so hard to find. Yeah. No, I get what you mean.
Yeah, I'd say just like there's going to be periods of time where it's going to do that. Like I'm entering December, which is our busiest month. It's crazy town. But then after that, like taking breaks and really just being like, all right, I need to sit on the couch today and watch shows that have nothing to do with what I'm doing. Or like just even just people that are artist based in general, like you need to have like that break, that mental clarity moment where it's like, okay, I can't just constantly be thinking about this stuff. I think that really helps. Like the big picture is just like taking care of yourself, taking a step back. If you did too much, take some off your plate and it'll be fine.
Yeah. No, you have I know it's not easy, but you have a great mindset. And I think it's helpful even just to hear, right? Like how you handle it, what you're going through, even if it's just to relate to someone like, okay, I'm not alone in this. So it's just, thank you for sharing. I think it's helpful just to, like I said, even just hear, right, your story. Excellent. Well, my last question, Molly, that I end every episode with is, in this moment, what is your proudest accomplishment? Now, it can be business focused, it can be something else, just kind of that first thing that comes to mind right now, proudest accomplishment so far.
Yeah, I was trying to think of that, and for me, it's more of like when this happens, this is that I always feel so much pride. And that is like, people, every time someone opens up the box of chocolates that we make and that reaction of like, wow, oh my gosh. And for me, it's like a culmination of so much work went into like each piece and designing it, creating it, making sure it's the right size, shelf life, like most people don't know like the effort that went into it, but I do. And then when I see that reaction, it just like, wow, this is what I do this for. And then a step further is people buying it for like an anniversary or a birthday. And then now I see like the same people the next anniversary, and it's like the things that I'm making up out of my brain and putting it into real life are now becoming people's like special traditions like in their lives. And it's like that's the kind of stuff that like you can't put a price on that. I'm so proud of just like something coming out of my head and it being that important for somebody.
Right.
So
yeah. Yeah.
and in our world where everything is bad and negative all the time, it's really good to like sprinkle some joy into people's lives.
Yeah. And directly from your hands too, like you're saying, like it came right from you. And yeah, that's a beautiful answer. And congrats on everything you've accomplished so far. I mean, in your career with Marble and Steel, with your family, it's a really beautiful story, and I appreciate you sharing it today. And before we sign off, where can people find you and Marble and Steel? Shout out, social media's website. Sure. Give everything a shout out.
Yeah, so our website is marbleandsteelcraftchocolates.com, and it's all written out. There's no like and symbol. And then on Instagram, it's Marble and Steel Chocolates, and the website's linked in the Instagram as well. So, and then Facebook is also Marble and Steel. So everything can be ordered on our website. Either if you're local to Asheville, you can pick up with me or sign up for emails. I do occasionally do markets in like Greenville, Travelers Rest, Asheville sometimes. And yeah, so we ship nationwide as well, as we talked about earlier. So
perfect. Yeah. Excellent. Well, everyone check out Molly and Marble and Steel. Yeah. And again, Molly, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This has been really fun.